Hello guys. Let's begin working with the MSF console. This will be a practical example where we will try to exploit a vulnerability in a damn vulnerable machine. But before that, let's first try to understand the different types of prompts in the MSF console. We all know that when we type MSF console in the terminal, it will open the MSF console terminal and it will start the Metasploit framework. For now, we'll go over some prompts that we need to understand first. So these are the prompts which I have already captured for you guys to make it easier. So if you guys see this prompt, this is a regular command prompt on a Linux machine. But if you guys are seeing this command that displays MSF6 or is at MSF file, so these two commands are based on the version of the MSF console or Metasploit that is currently installed in the system. So if you see this prompt, which you will see later on in this video, this command means that it is a context command prompt because here is the context, which is Windows, SMBMS, 17010 and Eternal Blue. So it tells us the context of this prompt. If you see a prompt that says Meterpreter, it is the Meterpreter command prompt. So these are a few prompts which you need to understand. First one being the regular prompt, second one is the Metasploit command prompt, the third one is the context-based command prompt, and the fourth one is the Meterpreter command prompt. So let's go back to our machine and you can see we have successfully turned on Metasploit. You can see the banner icon. So now what we are going to do is I'm going to exploit a vulnerable target which I have already found. So this target that I'll exploit is vulnerable to a really popular vulnerability called the Eternal Blue vulnerability. So let's see how we can use the Metasploit or the MSF console to exploit different kinds of targets. So first, I am going to use the search command. How do we search for different exploits? I'll just type search, blue. So you can see it is giving me many different exploits to choose from. So I am going to go with the exploit which contains SMB and blue. So I'll just type search, SMB and blue. So now it will give me all those exploits that have SMB along with the Eternal Blue vulnerability. So you can see this is the exploit which we are interested in. So now how do we use this exploit? It is important to understand this process. You can type use and then you can write the entire name. Let me do it so you can see. Let me clear the screen so that you guys can see it more clearly. Once again, search SMB blue. Here I am going to use the first exploit. So one method is to use something like this. Type use, exploit, Windows, SMB, MS17010, and Eternal Blue. So you can see this is a very time-consuming process to use an exploit. As you can see, we are now in the context prompt, which we already discussed. So let's go over another method that is much simpler. Once again, let me just show it to you. SMB and blue. So here I am going to use this one. I can just type use 0. You can see this is the serial number. So you can select different exploits based on the serial number. So I'll just write use 0. So what will happen? It will select the first exploit, so you can just see if I click on enter you can see we have here the Windows, SMB, MS17010, Eternal Blue exploit. So now the next step is to set the lhost in our host and the port number. So now what is lhost and what is our host? Let's discuss it. First, I will just write show options so it will give you the different options along with the description. Like here we have the R host, so you can see this is the target host. Okay, so we will set the R host to the IP of our target machine and we will set the L host to the IP of our own machine from where we are going to launch an attack. So how do we set these two? You can just write set our hosts. And I will enter the IP address of our vulnerable machine. I'll just type 10.10.68.71 and then press enter. Okay, so we have successfully set the R host. Now let's set the L host, so I can just type set L host, and you can see my IP is 10.6.68.59. So I have already set my IP as well. Now we need to run one more command, and that is to set the payload. We are going to set this payload, which is Windows x64 shell and reverse TCP. That's it. Now you guys can see this is very easy. You just search for an exploit. First you just have to search for a vulnerability, which in this case is my target machine that has the Eternal Blue vulnerability. This is why I am using the exploit Eternal Blue. So then you have to set the R host, which is the target host. Then you need to set the L host, which is the IP address of your own machine. And then you need to set the payload. So the third step is not as important, you can ignore it or you can specifically set it. So I have just set it for you just to show you how to set the payload. After that, you have two options, either to type run or you can type the exploit. These two commands will run the exploit, so I'm just going with the exploit, then press enter. Sorry, I can just type exploit so you can see it will start exploiting our potential target. So just wait for it. It will tell you that his host is likely vulnerable to MS 17010 Windows 7 Professional. This is the pack which my target machine is running. So this is scanning for one host. You can also give multiple hosts to the scanner, and now, wait for it to send all the buffers so that it can successfully exploit the Eternal Blue vulnerability that is in our system. So we will be waiting for it to complete. And it should open a shell where I can show you how to use different commands that we normally use on the command prompts of Windows, since we already know our target machine is Windows 7 Professional, so we will be able to use the Windows command line once we get the shell. There is one more thing that I need to explain to you guys. So this will display some information as well. The first time, it failed in exploiting this target, but now we have successfully exploited the vulnerability, and you can see we have a win here. Congratulations to all of you for successfully using the Metasploit for the first time and getting the shell into this vulnerable machine. Now you can see I have successfully gained access to the shell, and here we can see Windows System 32. I can just type all the commands here that I'm normally able to use in the Windows command prompt, so you can see if I type dir, you can see all the directory data that is currently present in that directory. So this is how we can use the command prompt on Windows, and this is how you can use the Metasploit by exploiting different types of vulnerabilities. You can see I can also use the command cd parent directory. You can see I am successfully close to Windows system files here. I can also show you all the important files which we can access. I can also go one step further backwards, and then I can show you different types of files. You can see here we have flag.txt, here we have program files, and program files x86. So this is how we can use the Metasploit. We have the flag.txt here. If you want to see what the flag file is, I can just type more, which is a command in the command prompt for showing the text file on the terminal. You can see I can access the flag file. So this is how we can use the Metasploit, and this is how you work with MSF console. Congratulations to all of you for successfully learning the Metasploit from start to end, and I hope you have learned a lot of new things. So that's all from my